20 years ago, Barbra Streisand bought a secluded house in a canyon off the beach in Malibu. She immediately set to work transforming it into her private oasis, which eventually grew to include 24 acres and 5 houses, each decorated in a distinct and different style. For the premiere issue of InStyle magazine, the superstar invited us into her home for a private tour. This is Barbra Streisand's favorite house, which she called the barn. It was also the inspiration for the love nest in A Star is Born. Inside the house, we found Barbra's particular and really wonderful decorating taste. She loves to combine the rough-hewn and the fine. Barbra, on one of the love seats inside, covered the entire love seat with very fine fabrics, the laces, linens, and delicate white fabrics, creating a kind of wonderful tension that she likes. We also found out that she was a tremendous collector of Americana. In fact, when she created the set for the current concert tour, she modeled it after Monticello, which she had recently visited.
Oh, the luckiest people.
This is the garden behind the barn where Barbra grew herbs and flowers for her house. Each of her homes here has its own unique landscaping style. At the Art Deco house, there are ferns and palm trees. At the Barwood house, there are native sycamores. And the barn itself is covered with a beautiful flowering trumpet vine. The grounds are crossed with bridle paths and walkways. At one point, as many as 30 stonemasons were working on the property, lining stream beds and building paths and stairways. Another wonderful feature of this property is the stream, which flows here year-round, a real luxury in Southern California. There are 4 bridges across the property, and Barbra had each one built in a different style. At one point, Barbra fell in love with the Art Deco style, and she spent 5 years decorating this house. She once said, "You can't control life, but you can control movies and interiors." This is probably the most controlled of all of her interiors. It's perfect right down to the last detail. She even had a 1933 Dodge painted to match the interior of the house. It worked for Barbra, but I'm not going to try it at my house.
And Martha's with us now. When I see all of that, and I think that she obviously put a tremendous amount of work into that, and she gave it all to, what is it, the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. Why do you think she did it, Martha?
Well, I think that, for one thing, she had owned the house and the property for 20 years, and she had completed it all, except the barn, which she always felt was, you know, she was always working on the barn. But she also was moving on to another stage in her life. She had raised her son, Jason Gould. You know, he's grown and left home, and she was ready to let go of it. You know, she told us in InStyle magazine that she was really just, you know, it's a lot to take care of. 5 houses. Most of us have trouble taking care of one. So she let it go, and she gave it to the Conservancy so that they could establish an ecological think tank.
I remember she was also here in New York auctioning off. They were auctioned off a lot of her antiques. But we should just say she still is buying antiques too, right?
Right. And the great thing, though, that I loved about this story was that the barn had some things that are very kind of homey and funky and casual, but she kept all of those things.
Now, the barn was the one that you really chose to focus on.
Yeah, we love the barn.
Why?
Well, it gives you another side of Barbra Streisand's life. You know, she's in the barn. It's cozy, it's casual, it's intimate. It's filled with things like quilts, and it had the, you know, those kinds of sort of homey collections. She also, it was also the place where she had the piano.
That's what I say, that piano was in there too.
She composed some of her songs on that piano.
I don't know if everybody realizes it too. I mean, just while you're here, that we should say Martha Nelson is with InStyle, and InStyle is a book, a new magazine about people, from the people who first brought us people.
That's right.
I guess just a never-ending interest in people's lives and how they live.
Absolutely. You know, People is a news magazine and comes out weekly, and our magazine is a monthly that has a feature approach. We're invited by celebrities into their homes to see how they live their daily lives, their lives off camera.
Must have been very special to be walking through, though, and see all of her little things.
It is such a beautiful place. I wish I could live there.
Oh, I'm sure. Martha, nice to have you here.
Thanks.
What a rare look.